Today we're talking about equilateral and equiangular triangles. So you see this drawing again that we had the other day. I would like you to review a little bit and remind yourself what kinds of triangles that we have. Practice makes perfect. So your options for the sides are scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. Remind me, what does scalene mean? Scalene means no equal sides. And isosceles means what? Isosceles means what? A triangle that has at least two congruent sides, okay? And then equilateral means a triangle that has all three equal sides, okay? So these are either scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. And then we talk about them as far as their angles are concerned. So angles can either be acute. What does acute mean? All less than 90. They can be right triangles. What does that mean? Has a 90-degree angle. Or they can be obtuse, which means one angle that's more than 90 and less than 180. So find them. Decide what they are. So upper right triangle. What kind of triangle is this? It's a right triangle. And what about its sides? It is scalene. Let me go back. Scalene right or right scalene. It doesn't matter which order you tell it. Okay. I like it. The one on the bottom left is an isosceles right. Because it has two sides that are 4.5. Okay? So Drew, what kind of triangle do we have here? Scalene and what else? Acute. I like it. Okay. Yellow triangle, Vinny, what kind do we have? Acute is right. Isosceles. Okay. All right. Ryan, what's the one up here? What's this one? Good. Brayden, what's the pink one? Good. Good. This is obtuse, okay? Okay. Shh, guys. Equilateral and equiangular. Equiangular means that it has all three angles equal as well. So it's both equilateral, has all three sides equal, and it has all three angles equal as well. Okay? How about the green one? This one, green, is what? Obtuse. Okay. Isosceles. Isosceles. So for the pink one, good question. Do we need to put acute? We could, but this is more descriptive. Equiangular means the same thing. It's going to mean the same thing as acute, because if of 180 degrees divided by 3 equal sides has to be 60 for each one, and that's an acute angle. We also could call this isosceles, because an isosceles triangle has at least 2 equal angles or equal sides, but these are the best answers. Okay? Shh, gentlemen, please. No. Okay, we've got all of our triangles. Now, what I want you to notice, guys, is we classified by their sides. Braden, please. Thank you. Okay? We classified by their sides, but I want you to pay attention to the isosceles and the equilateral ones. What's happening with this isosceles triangle? What's going on with these angles in this isosceles triangle? Two of them are equal, right? Okay, bottom left has 2 equal angles, 2 equal sides. Okay? What about this one? Has to be right or obtuse. Yep, because we have not enough left to be for everything to be obtuse, right? 180 degrees, take away an obtuse angle, has to be acute, is what names it. Yep, very good. Now look at this isosceles acute triangle. What do you notice about its angles? 2 of them are the same. How about this isosceles obtuse one? 2 of them are the same. And what about the equilateral one? All 3 are the same. Okay? So when the sides are the same, it forces some of the angles to be the same. Okay? We're going to talk about those today. Okay? So I want you to identify all of the parts of this triangle that are in bold. So this is an isosceles triangle, and it has exactly 2 congruent sides. And those congruent sides are called the legs. So I want you to label the legs of your isosceles triangle. Okay? Where it has the tick marks. So those tick marks mean those are congruent, right? So label the legs. Those 2 legs are congruent, and they are the sides that are congruent. Okay? Everybody have their legs labeled? Label your legs. This is why label. Okay? So each one of these is a leg. Okay? Now, the angle that is formed by the legs is called the vertex angle. I want you to label the vertex angle. The angle made by the legs is the vertex angle. So label your vertex angle. It is the top one in this figure. That's your vertex, and it's important that you know this vocab. Okay, that's your vertex. Vertex. The third side is called the base. So label your base. In this case, the base is on the bottom of the triangle, but we can rotate a triangle and have the base be off to the side. So the base is your third side. Now I want you to label your base angles. Which ones are your base angles? The reason we want to know what the base angles are is we have something called the base angle theorem. The base angle theorem says that when 2 sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite them are congruent. Okay? when two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite them are congruent. What does opposite mean? On the other side, like alternate. On the opposite side, not touching, not non-adjacent. So I want you to label, yep, those are going to be your base angles, exactly. So the base angles will be congruent. So I want you to note which angles are opposite those sides. And then I want you to make a tick mark showing that those two base angles are congruent. The converse of the base angle theorem also holds. It says that when two angles of a triangle are congruent, thank you, then the sides opposite them are congruent. So we have base angles that are congruent. That's going to make the sides opposite them congruent. That's going to make the legs congruent. Okay? These are my angles that are congruent. That means the sides that are opposite them have to be congruent. So that's the converse of the base angle theorem. One says when two sides are congruent, the angles opposite them are congruent. The converse says when two angles are congruent, the sides opposite them have to be congruent. Converse means we switch them. Questions on this? All right, we're keeping moving. So here's a triangle, and I want you to tell me how we're going to figure out what x is. Yes, Maya. I like it. Why? We have two sides that are congruent. That means that the angles opposite those sides have to be congruent. So we set them equal. And then we solve. So Vinny, how are we going to solve this? So take away 22 from both sides. And when we do that, we get 18. Mm-hmm. We could have done the 2x plus 20, 3x plus 22 on the left side and equal to the other, as long as they're equal. Okay? Now we're going to subtract 2x. So x becomes 18. And we're done. Because it, oh, nope, we're not done. We can't stop short. What does it ask us to do? Yep, we got to figure out all the angles. Okay? So we know x is 18. So we plug it back in. 2 times 18 plus 40. So 36 and 40 gets us, so 76 degrees for this one. And these have to be the same, or we did something wrong. Good. Mm-hmm. And then they want us to find all the angles, so we got to find this other one. Okay? So 152, 180 minus 152. Okay? So this time they wanted us to plug it back in. Questions on this one? Okay? We're good? Next one. Now we want to find x again, and this time we don't have to plug anything back in. It just says find x. So how are we going to find x? This time, notice it's twisted, it's pivoted, it's rotated. So still going to be the same. Why? Good. The base angles are the same. That means that the sides opposite them have to be the same. And we need an equation so we can solve for x. So we need to have something with an equals in between. So x plus 10 has to equal the 3x minus 6. Right, but what are you going to set it equal to? If you add these two up, what will they be equal to? Okay. Add 6. Are the angles? Are they angles? They're sides, right? So the sides won't equal 180. Okay. So x plus 16 is 3x. Okay, but we take away the x because it's positive. So 16, yep. And so x equals 8. And we're done. And we don't have to plug it back in. But this one would be 18 in length, and this one would also be 18 in length. 18 meters, 18 feet, 18 inches, something. Okay? We were just trying to find, yeah, we were finding the sides this time because it was out here by the sides. Okay? Great questions. Other questions? We're good? Okay, next one. Oh, sorry, give you a little more time. Okay, last question, last problem. Okay? This is not a proof. We just want to know what things are going to be congruent. So what our book likes to do is they want to embed a bunch of problems together to keep you from having too many single problems and the book being bigger and thicker and heavier. Okay? So they'll take triangles and they'll put 3 triangles together. I have a big giant triangle. I have a smaller triangle. And I have another small triangle. This big giant one is the same thing as 2 small triangles together. Okay? So it's important that you take your paper and trace these things on your paper so you can work with the drawings, make marks and so forth on your paper. That way we're not writing in our books. And a great resource, if you have it, is ask your parents if they have sticky notes. Because sticky notes, especially the thin kind, not the Post-it brand, but the Walmart or Target variety, are thin enough that you can see through them. So you can stick it on your book, trace it, and then put it in your homework assignment, and then work with it. Make sense? Okay, so here we go. This time, they're saying segment HG is congruent to segment HK. Okay, segment HG congruent to segment HK. Make sure that you put your tick marks there. Here's HG, here's HK. All right, so these two are in this smaller triangle. Since it's an isosceles triangle, and we know the base angle theorem, what does that mean? Which angles are going to be congruent? Those bottom 2 base ones of this particular triangle. So can we call this one angle G? Okay. Because there's only one angle here. Can we use a single name for this angle? How many angle K's are there? So we have to call this angle GKH or HKG. As long as K is in the middle of those 3, we've got the valid name. Okay? All right. Last example. If angle KHJ, K to H to J, is congruent to angle K to J to H. Now we're dealing with a different triangle, aren't we? And and the base is not on the bottom, but that's okay. Okay? So what does that mean? So if these base angles are congruent, which sides have to be congruent? HK, right? HK has to be congruent to, that was the one opposite this one, KJ, good, KJ. It doesn't look like it on my screen because of the distortion. Make sure you put your tick marks on top. And you could have JK as well. Questions on this one? Okay, your assignment is on your assignment sheet, and I'll put it up here as well. Okay, here we go.